It began on a rainy Tuesday in New York City, the kind where the sky seemed to cry every unshed tear for every broken heart. Emma Walker stood beneath a crooked awning outside the quaint little bookstore she had visited every week since college. She wasn't there for the books today, though. She was hiding, from the rain, from her thoughts, from the deafening silence of her empty apartment. It had been 3 months since Daniel left, 3 months of trying to stitch her heart together with coffee, journaling, and half-hearted Tinder swipes. As she watched the world rush by, a man dashed across the street and ducked under the awning beside her. He was soaked, laughing at himself as he shook the water from his coat. "God has a strange sense of humor," he said, flashing a grin that could melt glaciers. Emma chuckled, not out of amusement but because for the first time in weeks, someone else's voice had cracked her shell. "Or a really twisted one," she replied. "Hey, I'm Alex," he said, extending a hand still dripping with rain. "Emma." And just like that, something shifted. Over the next few minutes, they exchanged weather jokes and book preferences. He was into old Russian novels, Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, the heavy stuff. She loved contemporary poetry and dog-eared copies of Jane Austen. Their tastes clashed like fire and ice, yet their laughter felt like a song they'd both forgotten the lyrics to, rediscovered. They exchanged numbers. Just casual, friendly, harmless. But nothing about what followed was harmless. 2 weeks later, Emma and Alex had coffee 3 times. The third time he brought her a copy of the Brothers Karamazov, annotated with sticky notes. "If I have to read your poetry, you have to understand my madness," he teased. She read it, cover to cover. Twice. They walked the high line, shared secrets in whispers, dared each other to do silly things, karaoke in a random bar, dancing in the rain, asking strangers deep questions. Emma started to laugh again, and it wasn't forced this time. Her heart started healing in places she hadn't known were broken. 4 months later, they were officially dating. Everyone said they were a strange match, she, the quiet writer with a passion for solitude, and he, the architect who lit up every room. But they balanced each other. He reminded her that life was a series of leaps, not plans. She grounded him when the world spun too fast. One evening, while watching the stars from the rooftop of his apartment, Alex said, "Do you believe in soulmates?" Emma hesitated. "I think the universe has a funny way of connecting people who are meant to find each other." He looked at her then, really looked. "I think we've met before. In a different life. You were a storm, and I was the sea." She smiled. "And we crashed. But we found rhythm." 2 years later, they traveled, Greece, Morocco, Japan. Every trip was a new chapter. He proposed at a small vineyard in Tuscany, under fairy lights and the soft notes of a violinist they'd met earlier that day. "I don't know how many lives we've lived," he said, kneeling. "But I want this one, and every one after, with you." She said yes. They married in a botanical garden surrounded by wildflowers and old books as centerpieces. Their vows weren't perfect, but they were real, full of tears, laughter, and promises scribbled at 2 a.m. 10 years later, they had 2 children, a golden retriever named Leo, and a house filled with mismatched furniture and photo frames. Life wasn't always easy, there were arguments, bills, and nights of doubt. But their love never lost its edge. It only deepened, like the roots of an old tree weathered by storms. Emma once asked him, while watching their children play in the backyard, "Do you still think we were soulmates in another life?" He pulled her close and whispered, "I think we're proof that soulmates don't just find each other. They choose each other. Again and again." And they did. Even when Emma got sick at 62. Even when Alex held her hand through treatments. Even when she said goodbye one last time, whispering, "I'll find you again, love." In another chapter. Years later, an old man sat on a park bench with a notebook, sketching the clouds. A little girl ran up, dropped her toy, and when he handed it back, their eyes met. And just for a second, just a spark, it felt like they'd met before. Because soulmates always do.